And now he's dead. He's dead. He's just been found dead. This hit me like a truck when I saw this news pop up on my phone. He's dead now. It hit me for a number of reasons. One, there was an element of guilt because I haven't spoken about this. I've shared other people's stuff, but haven't directly spoken about it because I didn't know the facts. Because by definition, the first inquiry that Cambridge did cleared him of plagiarism, and the second one's still ongoing. So don't know the facts, and I like to know the facts before I speak. But the one thing that I knew was true was the disproportionate level of backlash that he received, that Jason Arday received in the press over the accusations of plagiarism as a professor at Cambridge. So I knew that that was wrong. Similarly to like how the Meghan Markle stuff was wrong. You know, like how the Daily Mail and the Express would publish the exact same stories about Princess Kate, having avocados as like a pregnancy treat, and they'd praise it when Princess Kate did it, but when Kate Middleton did it, and then when Meghan Markle did it, they'd be like, "Oh, the avocados are linked to drought and murder." It's just that disproportionate level of hate that black prominent people get compared to their white counterparts. And ironically, I'm going to plagiarize here and use Jupiter Ball, is how you know him, my friend Helio. He made a video, which I actually accepted the collab on barely half an hour ago, where he named all of the white professors, a bunch of them, and academics who still are gainfully employed in academia, who've all been found to have committed plagiarism, and yet you don't know their names.
William O'Reilly, Anna Laura Wainwright, David Latchman, Ross Holmes, Fiona Leal, Nicola Morrison, Neil Wynne.
So while I don't know the nature of how he died, the likelihood that his death is unrelated to the fact his recent resignation is very, very low. And if it is in any way linked, racism killed Jason Arday. And that's why a lot of black people who are in some way prominent are feeling they are coming for all of us because they don't want black people to have influence in this country. To his family, to his loved ones.
Back in 2023, a guy by the name of Jason Arday became the University of Cambridge's youngest ever black professor at age 37 and was appointed as Professor of Sociology of Education and a Fellow of Jesus College. Now, fast forward to late July of 2026, there were allegations of academic misconduct that surfaced that were reported by The Telegraph, where they said, quote, about 100 or more passages that were identical or nearly identical between Arday's 2015 PhD thesis that was awarded by Liverpool John Moores University and a 2009 PhD thesis by Paula Zwozdiak-Myers, whoever that is. After those allegations of academic misconduct came up, there was a bunch of other questions that were raised concerning some public statements that he put out in his biography that included his discussions about participating in extreme endurance feats like running 600 miles in 6 days or 30 marathons in 35 days or similar ultra running like achievements. Now, apparently Liverpool John Moores University investigated the PhD-related plagiarism claims earlier and did not uphold them, saying that they were honest and reasonable errors. But by August of 2026, Cambridge University announced that they were going to conduct their own investigation into the new information about Arday's academic qualifications and honorary appointments. Just hours later, after the announcement of that investigation, on August 5th of 2026, Arday resigned with immediate effect from his professorship and fellowship. Then just 9 days later, on August 14th of 2026, Arday was found unresponsive at an address in Battersea, South London, and was pronounced dead at the scene at the age of 41. Now, so far, the Metropolitan Police stated that the death is being treated as unexpected, but it's not believed to be suspicious. Are we absolutely sure about that? In any case, Arday was married with 2 children, and so he leaves behind 2 children and a spouse, which is honestly, I think, the worst part about this entire thing, because now you're going to have 2 kids without a father.
When Jason Arday was appointed the youngest black professor in the history of the University of Cambridge, it was a big public moment. This man had overcome so many challenges to reach that academic summit. As he gave interviews about his achievement, the new professor voiced some frustration that he had also become a standard bearer.
For me, a victory from all of this would be for this to be the last headline about being the youngest ever black whatever. I mean, it's not a redundant point, it's a very important point given the dearth of black and ethnic minority people in higher education, full stop, particularly in institutions such as Cambridge and Oxford. But I think the actual more salient point is actually that this shouldn't be a headline in a couple of years' time.
Concerns that Professor Arday had been guilty of plagiarism in the preparation of his doctoral thesis were raised soon after he began work at Cambridge. Earlier this month, the university announced that it had begun an investigation following new information about his academic qualifications, and he resigned soon after. In a statement, he said, "I no longer wish to feel as though I'm living under a constant spotlight, where every aspect of my life is subject to public examination and judgment." His resignation, he said, was simply the decision of someone who has reached the limits of what any person should reasonably be expected to endure. Other parts of Arday's life had come under scrutiny. Claims he'd made about marathons he'd run for charity and the amount of money he'd raised.
Yeah, on Monday, a few of us got together to support him because he after the resignation in particular, he was really down. He felt like he couldn't, literally couldn't leave his house. And so we said, let's get around, have dinner with him, cheer him up a little bit. But obviously he didn't have he felt like he was maybe doing a bit better after that. But then I think there's just been more stories, more press, more this, more that, which is just really, really, really overwhelming.
Tonight, Jason Arday's family described a campaign of misinformation which was too much for Jason, who was a gentleman who always wanted to see the best in everyone. "We are in shock," they said, "to have lost this amazing father, partner, brother, uncle, and son."
Of Education at the University of Cambridge.
3 years ago, Jason Arday became the youngest ever black professor appointed at Cambridge University, an 800-year-old institution.
Professor Jason Arday joins us now.
He was interviewed about the achievement on CBS News.
If I'm being absolutely candid and honest, not many teachers at school had any belief in me.
Now Arday has fallen from grace, accused of plagiarising some of his academic writing and lying about claims he ran 600 miles in 6 days to raise money for charity. The scandal's front-page news here in the UK, and the former Professor of Sociology of Education has now resigned, saying in a statement that it should not be mistaken for an acceptance of the narratives that have surrounded him. Cambridge University says it's launched an investigation. There are now questions about Arday's autobiography, scheduled to be published this month. Holly Williams, CBS News, London.
I think this is a tokenistic appointment. What are your thoughts on this?
The Board of Electors on your interview day were absolutely unanimous. We are so lucky to have you. You are the best in the world in terms of the research that you do.
An extraordinary journey.
My name is Jason Arday. I'm Professor of Sociology of Education at the University of Cambridge. I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. I learned to speak just before the age of 12, so I was 11.
And my brethren, nibs, class clowns, chatty patty, all the time, bro. What do you mean you was a mute?
I learned to read and write when I was 18 years of age.
It's not one lie, it's not two, it's not small lies, it's massive lies on every piece of his origin story and biography.
12 years after learning to read and write, I gained a PhD, and then I ended up becoming one of the youngest professorial chairs in Cambridge's history.
No apology, just playing the victim.
You're chatty patty.
Some of his academic writing and lying about claims he ran 600 miles in 6 days to raise money for
30 marathons in 35 days. And by the way, I was actually looking into it. He alleged that on the 21st day, he fell and broke his leg, but managed to complete the next 9 marathons on a broken.
Yeah. This is a story of corruption, of people who knew the truth and covered it up.
It's bait. You should have known it was going to be peak for you, bruv. You should have known they were going to dig up. No one don't want to see you in that position. Joke, man. This got us looking mad now. Got us looking mad.
Cambridge University's youngest black professor, Jason Arday, who resigned after a plagiarism row, has been found dead at his London home. Police said the 41-year-old's death is not believed to be suspicious. Arday left Cambridge after allegations that he plagiarised his PhD thesis. Other claims he made were then scrutinised, that he ran 600 miles in 6 days, raised more than £5 million for charity, and couldn't speak until he was 11.
I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when I was 3, so a hybrid of autism, Asperger's syndrome, and global development delay. And I guess it's been well kind of publicised now, but I didn't learn to speak until I was 11, and I didn't learn to read and write until I was 18.
Cambridge University is investigating how Arday was hired and how senior staff in general are chosen. Some say Arday's appointment at Cambridge is the perfect example of how the so-called culture wars have escalated. Others say he was the victim of a witch hunt, who was gleefully hounded by the media and on social media before his death.
But people did say Jason was autistic. He had some challenges. People did say that the level of scrutiny on Jason at the time could lead to some very tragic situations. So I think there'll be a lot of people very busy deleting comments that they've made about Jason, some vitriolic, hate-filled comments.
And I think that if the press had been a little bit more compassionate, Dr. Arday would still be in the bosom of his family today.
I'm concerned about the wife who has lost her husband, the person that has lost their father, and the mother and father that have lost their child, and the friends that have lost close friends to them who they knew was at risk, and yet people considered to pile on.
Cambridge University and Arday himself had said they didn't want the plagiarism row to cast a shadow over other academics from diverse backgrounds. But one of the world's most prestigious universities and those who commentated on Arday's life before his death are now firmly under the spotlight.
So, an ex-Cambridge professor has been found dead. He was under investigation for plagiarism. Hey, I cannot say that word, guys. And other allegations. I believe he denied everything. Emergency services said the man was found unresponsive at an address in Battersea, South London on Friday afternoon. Metropolitan police officers were called by the London Ambulance Service. A 41-year-old man was pronounced dead at the scene and his next of kin have been informed, the force said. Jason resigned as Cambridge Professor of Sociology of Education last week after allegation of plagiarism, God I beg, and questions about some of his achievements. He had denied the allegations. So in a statement, the Met Police said at this time his death is being treated as unexpected but is not believed to be suspicious. The Cambridge University Vice Chancellor, Professor Deborah, we are desperately saddened to hear this tragic news. Our heartfelt sympathies go to Jason's family and friends at this incredible difficult time. And also Jason denied any plagiarism but admitted errors in his work. The other thing I want to say as well is the media bullied this man, and also there's one blogger, the Shade Bora. You guys should be ashamed of yourself. You should seriously be ashamed of yourself, because why were you posting this man every single day? You make a post, but then at the end of the post you have a picture of him. For what reason? All this must have made him do allegedly. We don't know what happened to him, but yeah, he's been found dead. But bullying is not good, guys. The fact that the Shade Bora joined with the rest of the media to bully this man was not nice. They should have allowed him to be, investigated by the right authorities, but you guys joined to bully him. It's not nice. Anyways, may he rest in peace. My condolences goes to his family and friends.
I want to tell you about some breaking news coming out of the UK. Jason Arday, who made history as one of Cambridge University's youngest ever black professors, has been found dead. Now, chances are you haven't been following this story, but I think you need to know. And so I'm going to bring you up to speed right now, because all of this is unfolded incredibly quickly. Arday's career had become engulfed in controversy following a series of allegations of plagiarism and claims that he misrepresented parts of his resume. The scrutiny became so intense, with some of his supporters describing the criticism as a right-wing smear campaign. After all the mounting public pressure, Arday resigned from Cambridge last week, and now, just days later, police say the 41-year-old was found unresponsive in South London and pronounced dead at the scene. There is speculation surrounding the circumstances of his death, but authorities have not publicly stated or confirmed the cause. So it's an extraordinary and deeply tragic turn in a story that has unfolded in a matter of days. We will keep you updated. This story will make its way across the pond to the United States. Trust me.
What is your message to black children who are told that they can't do something?
Will always supersede skill because it's immeasurable. But apart from anything else, you must always believe that you can do something great, and hope springs eternal. And belief is everything. You have to believe you can do that. And surrounding yourself with the really positive people and good people, and repetition to hear those messages over and over again is really the catalyst of kind of developing that way of thinking and visualizing it, manifesting it, speaking it into existence, and always speak good of people. You've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Speak good of people, because when you speak bad, all of that takes away from whatever good may be coming to you. So always have a good, good thoughts, good deeds, good heart, and think about people in the best way possible.
The British press, unsurprisingly, have such a big hand in what's happened to Professor Jason Arday. But it's to be expected. They hound black people until they unalive themselves. That's their entire aim. White racists, what do you expect? But the black community are partly to blame for this. I spent the past week watching platforms like the Shade Borough post this man every 7 seconds and give people a platform to tear him down like he was a criminal. I watched old school friends come online and laugh at his downfall. I watched black academics throw him under the bus because he was no longer your golden representative. And I don't know why one man's representing an entire group of people. But I watched you all play a part in tearing this man down. And I'm no judge or jury, but it was abhorrent because for some reason, people feel like you're only a part of a community where things are all good. No, you're part of a community when it's good, when it's bad, when it's difficult. And it should never have gotten this far, to the point where this man felt like he couldn't exist in this world. And I hope we can all reflect on our conduct and behaviour. I'm embarrassed by our community more than anything. I don't care about what white people want to do, but I expected more from black people. And then this has really made me think about who I want to spend my life advocating for, because it's clearly not worth it.
So in terms of kind of thinking about, I suppose, and kind of really centering this around race and racism, we're kind of thinking about anti-racist education and the potential it holds. So for me, when you think about ideas around anti-racist education or kind of liberatory education, just generally speaking, its potential is really to kind of truly reflect the cultural hybridity that we have. Okay, so it's this idea of telling life histories in a particular way. So if we think about what kind of histories occupy the canon, a lot of them are white, dominant, Eurocentric histories. And those histories do not take into consideration aspects of the global south, of indigenous populations. It doesn't consider all of those types of different contexts. And that becomes really, really pivotal when students are trying to develop a sense of belonging. Because I think one of the things that gets completely separated is this idea that at 18, in most cases, but let's just say, if learning is a lifelong journey, we could talk about students that come in at 18, or we could talk about mature students. There is that idea of trying to develop a sense of identity, whether it's through studying, whether it's through learning, through knowledge interaction or knowledge exchange or knowledge construction. And if we have effectively education that doesn't engage those people in that way, we are doing them a disservice. And the disservice happens because fundamentally we're preferring one particular context of knowledge and suggesting that that is the knowledge. and that the other things that go in and around that do not exist. And that's what we're doing by kind of marginalising that knowledge. I think the centrality of whiteness as a construct, and whiteness is aligned to power and privilege, means that in terms of disrupting that canon, it becomes very, very difficult. It becomes really difficult. And it becomes difficult because it's not necessarily white people. It's very important to make that distinction. Whiteness as a construct just it centers around power and privilege. So if you have people who may occupy particular types of power and privilege, as I may occupy unfairly as a male or as a black male, then it's going to cause problems in terms of decentering that. So trying to decenter that power and privilege, trying to decenter that whiteness, means making space for other bodies of knowledge to be accepted and to be acknowledged in the same way. And effectively what we have in the academy is a system that almost facilitates that power and privilege. It doesn't actually do a lot to decenter it or dismantle it. Now that isn't a criticism of anyone, but that is just a fact. You know, whiteness, the centrality of whiteness is all encompassing, and it very much still defines a lot of what we do in our learning, teaching and university spaces.
You can see his Just Giving pages from that challenge. Raised about 10 grand. But he's then said in speeches years later he's raised 5.5 million. And there's just no receipts, there's no paper trail for this stuff. And in his book he claims it's also when he was suffering from a brain tumour that had to be removed, and that operation happened, I think, 4 weeks before he did his PhD visa, where you have to be cross-examined about your PhD. And it wiped his memory. He had to relearn his PhD in 3 weeks. He then aced his viva. Oh, and he'd also had a stroke